discussion. So first of all, I'm pleased to introduce PJ Pereira. PJ, for those of you who don't know, he's the founder and creative chairman at Pereira and Odell, or Pereira Odell, in San Francisco and New York. Pereira Odell has been a longtime member and collaborator in the soda community. PJ is also a highly decorated creative leader with Emmys, Lions, and all kinds of industry hardware. He's an advanced martial artist with 3 black belts and counting, and also happens to be a best-selling novelist. His latest book, Girl From Wudang, is about martial arts, AI, and immortality. And unlike many of us who've really become fascinated with AI in the last year or two, PJ spent the last 8 years researching particularly AI for this book. I've been a big fan of PJ's work and just his thinking in general about this topic. He's published tons of musings and experiments in his journey to write and release this book. And I'm just thrilled to have PJ here today to spend some time with us. So first of all, PJ, welcome and thanks for being with us.
My pleasure, Tom. I've been following, as you said, I'm part of the soda community for a long time, and these conversations are always incredible. I'm glad to be here, have a chance to talk about all these subjects are kind of been blowing our minds kind of recently.
Yeah, well, we might get into this later, but I think given your role as a founder, a creative leader, a martial artist, and a novelist, it might be reasonable to assume that you're already AI connected through some sort of neural link, because I don't know how you get all that done. So I want to maybe apply some Turing tests to you later on in this conversation just to see if you really are still 100% organic human.
That's not part of the deal, Tom. I won't let you do
it. Well, perfect. Well, let's dive in. And again, before we do that, just for those of you on the call today, feel free to make comments and ask questions in the chat window. We will surface those to PJ in due course through the discussion. So we'd love to hear from you. And would love to get some of your questions if you have them. So let's get started though, PJ, with just with a question around, and I should say I've got your book. I am not quite done with it. I'm about halfway through, but loving it. And I think what's really interesting is that you're wrestling in the book with a lot of the complexities around AI in general, and in many ways AI is a villain in the book. But as in your role as a creative leader and an agency owner, you've been a big proponent, or at least very much a kind of a public experimenter with some of the new Gen AI capabilities and in what it can do from a creative perspective. So is AI the villain, or is it the hero? Or maybe it's neither. Maybe it's just a bureaucratic pencil pusher. But maybe let's start with that high level.
I think this is a great way to start. This is the opportunity that I've had of working with both the fiction and the real, or the attempt to real side of it, is actually a big privilege. Because I mean, if you're writing a story, you need the juicy parts, you need the villainous behavior, and although things are not usually what they seem, but no spoilers there, but there's when I'm writing a story, we need the more spectacular implications of the technology. When I'm working on the agency side, I want the most optimistic side of it, and they're not necessarily true, either one, but they're all possibilities. I think that from all the conversations I've had with computer scientists, with neuroscientists, with sociologists, with philosophers, and people from all different fields. The research for this was total insanity. But what I've learned is that there's a small percentage of chance, but real chance of a doom scenario. I'll say, let's put it like between 3 and 5% chance of doom. There's a 50% chance, which means can go either way, of these things causing a a big change in the social fabric of the world, in positive or negative, and we don't know which one is going to be, but there's equal. And there's a 90% chance of that causing scientific leaps that are going to change our lives forever. So I think that when we look at this, there's a lot of anxiety because I think intuitively in the soda community in particular, because we're so close to technology, we're all kind of part geeks and part creatives, and we're kind of navigating that space. There's a natural anxiety there that's like, I want to love it, but I'm afraid of it. And I feel like I need to warn the world, but I also need to get the world warm. So how do I deal with that anxiety? And I think that the anxiety comes from that. We know that the doom is not totally impossible. We know that it's very likely that the technology leaps are going to transform our lives. And how do we balance that? And we know that in the middle, there's these 50-50 chance that things are going to be, society is going to be transformed for the good and the bad. And I think that we're gonna need to let it play out and be zealous and pay attention and try to control as much as we can. But the genie is out of the bottle, and it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I wanted just a little aside on that, because I don't think I've heard this term before, but I know you were, in one of your other talks, or I think in one of our exchanges, you referenced this idea of the P doom number, which is the percentage that this could really be devastating. But just tell me a little more about that, and just the audience in general, because I hadn't come across the P doom concept before.
It's funny. The first time I heard about that was Kevin Roos from the New York Times was talking about it, how, because he's based here in the Bay Area. I'm in the Bay Area right now, and he said that every person that I talked to said that they are having this conversation when they get in a coffee shop to discuss. They always talk about, so what is your P doom? What is your potential of doom? And they all have like 3%, 20%. And it's funny because you would think that if you're working on a project, right? Let's say that you're working on a campaign here on the agent side. I'm kind of, one of the clients is kind of asking me for an idea, and I'm working on one on a campaign here, and I feel like there's 1% chance that idea may cause the end of the world. You would stop doing it. You would not mention. It's like
Right.
1% is not worth it. That's the problem, and that's the anxiety of this whole thing, is that this 1% is not just 1% of doom or not. It's 1% of doom against 90% chance of curing cancer or solve the climate problem. So how do you navigate these things? This is the problem that we as a society have never had to deal with, of a same solution, same thing being so radically different. I mean, we may have, like, I heard that the most common book here in the Bay Area among the technology people is the Manhattan Project, because they want to learn how to deal with the weight of this decision of of developing something that may cause that much destruction, but maybe the solution for peace as well. So big things have consequences, and you have to be responsible for them.
Yeah, that's it. It's interesting you brought that up, because that's the one analogy I can think of. And for those of you who've seen Oppenheimer, and there's the great little soundbite of Matt Damon when before they're testing the atom bomb, and it's what's the percent chance that this thing could blow up the universe? And Oppenheimer is like, it's point whatever percent, or 1% or something. And Matt Damon's character's in a very wry sense, says, I feel a lot more comfortable if it was zero, and that seems to sort of characterize this, this time. And I would mention too, for the group, in the book in particular, and I think broadly speaking, PJ's looking at AI in lots of different capacities, not just the creative, not just the impact on creativity. But I want to dive into that element just a little bit, which is, I think if we reverse, even just a few months ago, certainly 6 months ago, and I think many are still kind of in this opinion now, which is, trying to find some solace in this idea that AI does not really produce original thinking, or at least, or is not creative, maybe in the sense, that we might try to define it, or that we try to understand it as individuals. And I wonder if from your thoughts and your experiments and what you're seeing, is AI capable of original thought? And you're an artist and creator too. And what is the capacity and the capability to be creative and have original thoughts?
Well, I'm team human here. So right, I'm rooting for our species. But I think we need to, if we look at that with a very open mind to try to understand what's going on, I think we're gonna be forced to revise a few things. I mean, I was reading a story on a tech magazine a few months ago, and there was this giant article about healthcare and science, and how science actually forces to rethink what the definition of death, right? We all know that. So death in the past used to be when your heart starts beating, you're dead. Then we develop a way to reignite the heart and make it beat again. Okay, so therefore now it's the brain is that determines death. But now scientists have found ways to reanimate the brain of pigs, and by putting some different fluids on a dead pig, and they kind of reset the brain, and the brain starts to operate, and the whole body starts to operate. And now we are probably going to be forced to rethink death and what it is beyond the brain. If we are able to rethink what death is, we should be able to rethink what creativity is. And the reason I'm saying this is because we like to think of creativity as this magical power, these superhuman crazy thing that happen inside of the illuminated brains, but it's not. Creativity, if you look at it in a very cold perspective, you're not trying to defend yourself, right? Creativity is ultimately our complete lack of fear of looking dumb, right? So our ability to say something stupid at scale, one thing, one time after another, and try by the sheer force of our insistence in bringing dumb ideas to the table, one of them is going to work. We are not worried about we're like engineers. They like to think about the efficiency of their thought process. We creative minds, we don't give a crap about the efficiency of our process. We actually enjoy we take pride on being dumb multiple times, and then finding a thought that, because we kept trying, is absolutely original. Right. Okay. So if you think of that as the essence of creativity, let's keep putting ideas on the table. Let's brainstorm. Let's try things and see, and then we can spot the right, brilliant, original thing. Now let's go back at how artificial intelligence thinks, and especially how the process of they call it it's adversarial networks, and they basically have one computer trained with data sets, throwing ideas on the wall, just like what we do, and another one that is trained on the same data sets, determine if that idea is good or not, just like what we do. It's like a creative team and a creative director. So it's not very different from our thought process. And the thing is that computers are way better at not being afraid of throwing dumb ideas at the wall. So it has potential. There's a story that I heard in my research that kind of blew my mind. There was a story about how they were using artificial intelligence to try to make a computer play Go, the Chinese game. That is one of the most complicated games to play. So first round, they took a Go champion and played a bunch of games based on what the engineers were try to teach the computer, the AI, to play. After a while, the computer ends up winning. So they set up, they put themselves aside, kind of set another round for months later. The human champion went back to study and play and plan how he's going to beat the computer the next time. And the computer, and the engineers did the opposite. It's like, you know what? I'm going to reset. I'm going to completely clean the data set here. And I'm going to put two computers to play, one against the other. And I'm going to teach them the rules, but I'm not going to teach them strategy. I'm not going to teach them anything. Just play. Because that's how artificial intelligence is structured, engineered. It's playing like mammals do. It learns by playing, which is the essence of creativity as well. So hear me out on this. So the two computers, two AI started to play against each other. Once, twice, three times. In the beginning were very basic games, and the games started to get more sophisticated. And at some point, after millions of games played, they put the champion against the computer again. And in the middle of the game, they said that they saw the champion, kind of the human champion, kind of show a little grin, and felt like, yeah, he's kind of different. I won this game. He started to play, continued to go, and rounds later, he started to sweat and look very nervous, and he lost the game. Then he was interviewing the end, and he felt like, what happened here? It's like, there was a point that I thought the computer made a mistake, a silly mistake. And then in the end, I realized that silly mistake was actually a play I have never seen before. And I'm pretty confident that play did not exist, that computer created a play. It was a creative idea. It was a strategic thought. It created a play that defeated me kind of multiple rounds later. So I have to admit that this machine is a creative being. So maybe we are going to have to admit that creativity is something that doesn't belong to humans. It's part of any thought process. Or maybe we're going to have to rethink what creativity is and reshape it like we're doing with the idea of death. So creativity becomes this other thing that only human beings can do. That maybe is creativity is the how we attribute value to the experience of what we are seeing. But what we see today as creativity, that is idea of generating lots of ideas and then picking the one that is great, and that's not exclusive to ourselves anymore.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And there's another, if you just don't mind sharing, because I was really captivated with this, is, you've had some experience with this yourself, I think, in working with, with AI on some of your, your martial arts. And I believe maybe even inventing a new move or naming a new move. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I was just captivated by that scenario.
Yeah, so one of the experiments I've done that was actually not directly with the AI, was the outcome of the AI, but it was fascinating and frightening at the same time. That, I practice martial arts, I take it very seriously, put like 5 to 7 times a week, I'm in the gym training and having my limbs ripped out of my body and being punched in the face and kicked in the gut. So I'm there all the time doing it. I love it. So a guy that I know that has a gym nearby tries something that he wanted to make fun of AI. So AI doesn't have a body, and it doesn't understand how pain is and how joints work. So for all these things that we're saying that AI is so smart and everything, the guy was thinking, I want to make a fool of it. I'm going to make a joke out of it. And I'm going to ask ChatGPT to create a jiu-jitsu move, a jiu-jitsu joint lock that can break someone's bones or joints. And he decided to do that, and ChatGPT, like, he just gave it a prompt, just create a joint lock for me and that I can perform, and give me a name and a description of how do I do it. And he's a black belt, so he knows exactly what he's doing. So he tried that, and the first one, it was like horrible. He laughed about it. The second one was even worse. The third one, so I tell you, when like it was funny, and it was like really AI making a fool of itself. then when it got to number 9, it was like, yeah, that's actually not bad. It's not very practical from this position. There's so many better ideas than this one. And then it came to number 10. It called it the Phoenix Winglock. Not only has a very badass name.
Yeah, that's a great name. That's a great
Right?
name just
Yeah.
out of the outset, right? The
Yeah, it's like,
Phoenix
all right,
Winglock.
I like the name. I want to see if it works. It'll be awesome if it looks. And now I kind of rooting for it to work. And then he does that and it works. And then I took it and I feel like, okay, there's some gaps here that the explanation doesn't go too deep, but I'm gonna see. I play with it. I tried with my son first. He trains with me, and I tried with a couple of training partners, and I started to put, and it actually worked. And I submitted a lot of people, even higher belts than me, with that submission coming from an AI that which does not have a body, doesn't understand pain, it doesn't understand how shoulders operate.
Well, and it can't test, and it can't test that in like a tactile haptic system, right? Which is really what you're doing when you're grappling. Like you need to feel what's happening, to the opponent's body.
I saw a discussion once that like, yeah, if AI is a big marketing ploy, if it was named 30 years ago, the people who working on it called it statistical prediction, it wouldn't be as sexy as it is today. Well, if it was called imaginatively, or if it was called computing play, it would be much more than artificial intelligence. It would be seen as more creative than it is. Yeah, the naming, it changes, but if you put the name apart, if set the name apart and actually look at what's happening, this thing is creating things, is learning, is its ability to produce thoughts and ideas and interpretation. They're way beyond what it was technically programmed to do. Is mind-boggling. And that is what I think is the most exciting and important parts of this. It's a different kind of computing that we were raised with. We were raised to look at computers as machines that follow a specific series of steps that we call programs or algorithms, whatever you call them, but they follow our instructions. Artificial intelligence, philosophically, operates under very different pretense. They basically are told to play and experience and try different ideas, and they get incentives and get rewards every time they get close to a goal, and they get negative, they get punished every time that they go away from that goal. So it's incentive to try things and experiment with things, which means it's fairly unpredictable, because it's going to, for as much as we can try to do like our imaginative attempts to see where it can go, it will try so many more things that we can imagine that eventually it will beat us on the possibilities, and we'll try something that we do not expect, and it will be, it's like, we cannot tell exactly where the unpredictable fact is going to come from, because the chances of it are very high that we are going to, on any specific thing that we can predict. But in the volume that he's going to try, is almost 100% chance that he's going to try something that we did not expect. This is like going from riding a bike where we are the power, but we have total control, to riding a horse that has way more power, but he's going to try a few things that we're not expecting. And it's more powerful than us, so we're not going to have total control. But I hope and I think that we are going to be able to develop a good communication with this beast, that we're going to operate together,
Absolutely. Well, and it's the other thing I think that's worth bearing in mind, and we all know this, of course, but it's good to say it out loud, which is, Wes, our friend in the soda community, Wes Terhar from Media Monks, pointed out to us, it's like, no matter what your critiques are today of the capabilities, just remember that this is the worst that AI is ever going to be. It's only getting better. So if you're finding solace in these little cracks of where the capabilities are, that can very much be a sort of false sense of complacency, because it's only going to improve from here.
So I would challenge that a little bit, because I
Mm.
heard a thought this other day that was fascinating as well. Because I have been saying that, kind of, I saw Wes saying it. If like, yeah, it's so smart and so spot on. And then someone told me, so like, look at the writing of that AI produces today.
Mm.
As the technology can only get better, but our fine tuning of it may make it worse. If you look at
Ah,
if before ChatGPT, when you're
yes.
looking at GPT models, like from 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I was playing with writing tools to try to develop a living version of my main character, right? I wanted to
Yeah.
write it, she has a very strange voice that she mixes a the way we model that, it was like, yeah, we'll take something, a prompt out of that was inspired by old Taoist books, and then use that as the prompt to get finished by an MMA commentator. So we always kind of starts wise and it gets really fucked up. It was very funny to see it. It we were modeling a voice that was very interesting. Try to get ChatGPT to do that today, you can't. ChatGPT today sounds like a very boring telemarketing operator right now, because
Right.
sanitized to sound harmless. So yes, the technology is only going to improve, but our fear of it going in taking unpredictable routes may actually make it significantly worse.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's
because
an interesting point. Yeah.
we're imposing lameness to it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we
I
may
have heard.
actually we may actually fuck up the brilliance of the whole thing by limiting it.
Yeah, that is interesting, because I have heard that too, that some of the interventions around hallucinations and, some of these aspects of the large language models, so some of the human interventions and trainings are actually making, the AI dumber, in a certain way. So that's kind of an interesting concept to kind of think through.
Look at the images part as well. So I think that there's part of it for me that it seems very arrogant of the creators and the people who like control the means of content, right?
Mm.
So there are a lot of people complaining right now that the tools are becoming so powerful that how can we trust a photo right now if Google's new camera can compose all images and take the best shots of the smile of three people, and they take three photos, each person is smiling on a different one, it combines in a single one, is great for anyone taking a photo, is awesome. But now, can we trust these photos and everything? And I see the discussion and I feel them extremely arrogant of us, of the people criticizing, of the journalists and the designers, because we have always had, as a society, as a collective, we have always had that power. This called Photoshop. The only
Mm-hmm.
difference is that Photoshop was a tool and a skill that belonged to a small group of people. Now we are saying that once this power is in the hand of everyone, it's evil.
Yeah, right. Right.
So
That's
that means
interesting.
that what's evil is not the tool, is not the power, is not AI, is the fact that everyone has it. Philosophically, this is
Yeah.
the biggest selfish, self-aggrandizing, because we are the ones who are wise enough to manage that power. Philosophically, that's wrong. That's
Yeah.
how evil thinks, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. 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 Limiting access, because
because we are wiser.
yeah, because only a select few really, have the capability of understanding and using it correctly.
And again,
But
I'm team human here.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm afraid of the consequences of these at scale and everything. I understand the discussion and the damage that this can do at scale, but essentially that's not very different from what we have. We just have more volume of it, and maybe that opening the floodgates is just going to teach everyone to be wiser, to understand how simple to manipulate images are, and they're going to be more educated about it. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know how society responds to things the same way we don't know how AI is going to what AI is going to create. We are diving into an abyss of chaos. The
Yeah.
world is as chaotic as a fight where we don't know where the next punch or kick or throw is going to come from. That's why I combine martial arts and artificial intelligence in the same book, is because they're both experience of chaos. And the world that we're going to live in the next 10 years is a world of chaos.
Yeah. Well, I want to shift gears just a little bit, or not shift gears, but just continue on the thought, which is really digging into how this impacts creativity and kind of our roles as creative. And most of us in the soda community make creative work products. And you've talked about this, this as if not an opportunity, something that's going to happen anyway, which is really a significant reset of what it means to be creative, or how we think of creativity in our roles as creators. I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about how you see that. What is that reset? What does it look like? And again, I think you've been coming at it from this perspective of not just thinking about it. And I've also seen you, reference the fact that, AI is very much a thing where experiential learning is really the only way to go. Like, go read every book you want to, sit in conversations like this to learn. Intellectually, that's important, but this really, at the end of the day, is something you have to experience to learn. That's an aside, but related. If coming back to the reset of creativity and what that means for us as creators.
So I'll say I have my guesses, but my guesses are probably 90% wrong. I just don't know what is the 10% that is right.
What's your P doom on this guess?
I think that I think we're gonna be in a better shape after the chaos the settles, but we need to look at I like to think of the way we're looking at AI the same way that the first caveman looked at fire the day he realized that he could carry the fire on the end of a stick, that he did not know that fire was going to eat the stick. He did not know that fire could just burn his entire village, or that he could cook his fish, or that he could eventually would layers and layers of fire upon fire upon fire. It will allow him to melt rocks and build tools that would allow him to build different kinds of caves, and put caves on top of caves, and put caves on top of caves next to each other, and build massive villages that were bigger than he could have ever imagined that the world was. I mean, the consequences, the compounding consequences of AI are so massive that it's hard for us to visualize. That said, what I'm seeing in terms of the creative use of it is that our role in the creative process is the role of attaching a feeling to it, right? Because I think that is the AI doesn't, no matter what, AI doesn't have a life, at least not at this point, doesn't have a history to relate to. So I'm looking at ideas when AI brings 1,000 ideas for a story, a creative story, or visual, or whatever, and then another AI picks the ones that are statistically more likely to work in music or in visual or painting or an ad or anything, there's still something that we can use as human beings that, like, okay, these ideas speaks to me. And that relates to that moment that my grandfather said something, and attributing emotional value to an idea is what I think it's still going to be ours for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's not a selection of what's likely to work. Computers will be better at statistics or at how they call it, best practices than us very soon. It's not generating lots of creative ideas that are original. Computers are better than us at any point, but attributing an emotional value to an idea that speaks to me, that changes it. It's much bigger. I think that the idea of art in general will start to shift from generating something to noticing that something is special, which is complicated because that also shifts the power more towards the audience. The audience also has more power than the artist in terms of, the art, the audience interferes with the art in a way, in that sense of what does it do to me. So we are going to be forced to reset how we see creativity away from generating ideas and picking the ideas and more towards the feeling that it causes and the feeling that it caused on me. And I think that that's important. And I'm as an antenna of the feeling of the world that all artists are. And I think that this is important. And this is the right idea for now.
Yeah.
I think that is the shift, which is not, I'm not saying anything completely original. This is how artists have been trying to talk about themselves and positioning themselves, and how we creative minds have always been doing it. But we have always taken pride in taking more. When we show what we do, we show the volume of ideas and picking the right ideas. And I think it is going to be less important because it's always been less important. But now we're going to need to let go of that as our identity.
Yeah, so which I think is an interesting segue into then this, your experience as an artist and a creator, and in your experience running a creative agency. And so if you kind of shift that lens into Pereira and Odell, and how are you guys kind of thinking about it right now as an agency? Where are you kind of experimenting? What are you hearing from clients? What kind of impact are you seeing, on the business side of that already? And again, I know that's probably not from an underlying fundamental perspective. It's not different per se, but there is the real world of us selling creative work product and selling creative ideas, kind of at greater volume typically than an artist does, right? An artist is creating a thing and putting it out there. We seem to be creating loads of things each day and selling that to clients. So how are you guys kind of tackling this at Pereira and Odell, and talking to clients about it? And I'm curious just what you're also just hearing from your clients.
I mean, the client's part is funny. I think most marketers are excited about AI and they're curious about what's going to happen, but the ability to pull it off depends on the power balance between the marketing and the legal department.
Yeah.
If the legal department at a company is too powerful, that means that they're not going to do anything and they're going to be the last ones to adopt. And I think that's going to put them behind. If the legal department is weak, the marketers are going to try a lot of things, but they get in trouble. So the balance is a tricky one to expect. And I respect their reluctance to do it because it's a new world and they have a lot to lose. On the agency side, I think we're taking these reluctance as an opportunity to experiment and play more. So when they're ready, we are more ready, right? And I can see that it's very different. The use, we like to think of AI as this one thing. AI is not one thing; is an attribute of everything. Like from the headphones that you wear to the car that you drive, everything is AI. I think that Sam Altman was interviewed in a trip to to India, and someone asked him what kind of question at the point. So after doing these big experiments with artificial intelligence, what changed in your mind? And that kind of stopped him, and he thought for a while, and then he looked at the guy and felt like, I used to think of intelligence as an attribute to human beings, or at least living beings. Now I think of intelligence as an attribute to all matter. It can be zero, or it can be in billions of whatever unit it is, but it's an attribute. Intelligence is an attribute of matter. And I think what we are seeing here is that everything is going to be intelligent and creative, and is going to be powered by this in a different way, but in a different way. If you look in our business, media, for example, is going to be able to, I can see it being changed by transformed by AI in a massive way, from going from one media plan to infinite media plans. So this every consumer is going to can actually have its own media plan catered to them, because I can change the tactics and the strategy for every single person and do it on an individual basis, like we have never had a chance to do, and make decisions there on the spot. They're better than ours, right? Or at least way less expensive than it would be for us to do it. On the strategy side is a very different thing. The artificial intelligence ability to crack a massive amount of data, historically and current, they're unformatted, and make sense of these things that we can't as individuals, is going to transform our ability to find insights, to find possibilities, to raise opportunities, or to find threats, to see trends. All those things require gathering data, and computers are much better than us on that. And its new ability through artificial intelligence of extracting meaning from it is incredible. I've seen computers explain why a joke is funny, and it makes total sense. And if you're like, yeah, no, it can't explain. Yes, if a computer can explain why something is funny, it can look at statistical data, and media data, and sociological data, and research data, and find insights. It's just a matter of time that they are going to be better than us on finding those things from data. On the production side, it's easy to see. It's going to be cheaper, it's going to be quicker and everything. But on the creative side, I think this is the most fascinating, maybe because I'm a creative, but also because technological tools haven't been able to really enter the creative conversation yet. We have used creative tools in a certain way to visualize our ideas, to put our ideas on paper, but not to have those ideas. And if you think of the possibility of bringing AI to the brainstorming sessions, to the creative conversation, to watch what you're doing and suggest, as the horse, not the bike, that is changing and interfering and bringing things in real time, that is incredible. At the very basic level, let me put it, I've seen this happen already. Being seen like a creative team, a writer and an art director in a room, having a discussion. If like, yeah, that wouldn't be funny if we do this, and someone takes Midjourney and types that, and let me see if it's funny, and they put that and visualize the image, and it's actually much funnier than they expected. The ability to see and play with it. Yes, we are talking about visualizing just like Photoshop, but it's so real time that it's visualizing as you're having the idea, not after you're having the idea. That transforms essentially the creative process. I think it's everything's different, but from all the parts of our business, the creative process itself, the act of having ideas before even justify or judge them, the act of having ideas is going to be the one is going to be transformed the most once we shift from bikes to horses.
Yeah, and I love that analogy when you shared it in the past is in a way, it's like creatives are great at coming up with ideas, and there are an infinite number of ideas. Right now, there's a significant throttle to that in terms of time and energy, and especially as it gets to visualizing an idea and trying to understand if it's a good one or not. And to that point, the ability to have an idea, quickly visualize it, and try to understand if there's something there before you move on is incredibly powerful.
So
But
let me
again,
give you,
it's still ultimately there's still this piece you mentioned before, which is the ability to see the emotional power of it or the emotional connection of it, and to curate from an infinite number of ideas
yeah.
which ones are going to actually be good and which ones are going to, are going to resonate.
I was part of a panel at Cannes that was interesting. There were kind of a couple of people from editorial, from technology, from marketing, from marketers. I was kind of representing the creatives there. And one part of that conversation that really got me thinking was that there's that thing that people say that sounds stupid, but now we're living it. That if you put an infinite number of monkeys with typewriters, one of them is going to write a Shakespeare
Yeah.
level story, right?
Yeah.
The problem now is that because we have an infinite number of monkeys, finding that one is the real challenge, and we're going to need help from AI again to at least find a short list that we can pick from, and then the human nature is going to do that. And how do we pick that in a way that AI doesn't do? So one of the guys in the panel was talking about how he thinks of creativity as seeing what no one else sees, which makes creativity less, the root of the word creativity is creating, is generating something out of nothing. But maybe this reset is going to go from the creative act to the noticing act. How many times? I think that we have all been in a position that we see, eventually go see, these ideas so simple, it's so obvious, it has been there under our nose our entire lives, and we hadn't realized that until now. Those are some of the most fantastical experiences. Those are the ones that we remember forever, and that's when we take pride the most. And what is happening there? We're not actually creating an idea. We're just seeing something that no one saw before, although everyone has been looking at the same thing forever, and we see something that hasn't been done. Maybe it's an angle, maybe it's the approach, but most of the time is when you put your own perspective, your own history, your own brain structure, your neural structure, and apply it to that thing and make it special as an individual or as a group. So your individuality becomes more important than ever. The individuality of a group, the personality of a group that is diverse, that is unique, that is different from anyone else, it's what's going to make it special. So therefore, diversity of individuals or diversity within a group becomes the most valuable thing for human beings to preserve if you want to have a role in the creative process, because that's the only way we have to apply our personal stories and see what computers are unable to see, because they haven't listened to music when they were kids. They didn't have a heartbreak that was a real heartbreak, so they can write a heartbreak song that is going to be incredible, but the incredible is only going to happen once someone that had the heartbreak listens and attaches it to a memory that they have. Once they cry, that's when people around them are going to say, oh, this is special.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're bumping up against time here, and I wanted to well, let me ask a quick practical question that I wanted to get into in the chat thread, which goes back to the Phoenix wing lock. But Ryan was curious, in that scenario, was the Chat GPT given feedback after each round of feedback in terms of why something was a dumb idea or didn't work, or was it just a matter of kind of changing the prompt each time? Do you know on that one, just how that mechanism
No,
works?
he just asked for 10 different submissions and a name and description, and then he just wrote 10, and as we were playing with it, he was playing with it, one of them seemed interesting, and then what I did, I took it and I brought my own perspective. So again, I saw it like, oh, there's something here that matches my game, how I do it, and I
Yeah, right.
was better than the black belt. I'm not a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I'm a purple belt that is 2 belts under, but
Yeah,
that specific thing kind of matched the way I move, I could make it better. So there was a
Right.
personal touch to it that got that wing lock to be a really legit move. So
Right.
there's a
So
part
that's a
of
great, yeah, that's a great example of you, of someone in the position to both notice, but also bringing a high level of expertise to it to begin with. You know,
yeah.
so there's a lot of value in the expertise that you already brought to that situation.
And
Because
look
no
at
one
that.
else would notice it without the expertise, right? But then your ability to notice it relative to your personal experience.
And look at this. I think that this is important. So AI created a bunch of moves. A black belt picked from 10 moves, two that were interesting and one that was more likely to succeed. And then a purple belt, a lower belt than he was, because that move combined kind of matched my one better, made that move. And he told me, you're doing this better than I was doing. And you realize some details that I wasn't realizing, which I think has another element to it, that is AI is going to empower people with less skills to play at a higher level.
Mm.
So it will, yes, it will take jobs away. It will make life harder for some people that are kind of trying to do more things, but it will also take people with incredible skills that are partial to the entire process and allow them to play much bigger roles. So
Yeah.
I was able to fine tune a move better than a black belt was, according to him, because that the combination of the idea and my moves, that, so I think
Yeah.
it's great. So I'm seeing illustrators becoming animators, musicians becoming maestros,
Mm.
because of the power of AI. And I think that we may end up being in a scenario that we are going to deindustrialize creativity. We have learned during the last, we have applied the principles of the Industrial Revolution to creativity. We separated that into, oh, a writer is separate from an art director, is separate from the producer, is separate from the director, who is separate from the colorist, who is separate from the sound designer, who is separate from the musician. What if we could, we by the power, through the power of AI, we could allow creative vision to lead again, and take the creative vision and put all those secondary specialty powers under a single mind's vision, and let the person run like a Da Vinci.
Yeah.
We can all be Da Vinci's again, that we can all, or a Michelangelo, we can all own and control all the means and all the techniques in the world and have a single vision. We always complain about creativity through comedy is bad, is poor. Maybe that's going to make us less comedy than ever. And maybe we're going to get to the golden age of individual creativity. I don't know, but I see a lot of potential, and as an optimist, eternal optimist, I feel very excited about what's coming.
Well, that's awesome, and I think a wonderful note to end on. And I love that. I love that idea of perhaps a golden age of individual creativity and breaking down the barriers between disciplines. And I think we could all get excited about that ability to control both the means of developing a vision, having a vision, and developing a vision, and putting that back front and center to what's possible. I also just wanted to call out quickly, I absolutely love this concept of just thinking of AI as playing. So it's we think of it as quantitatively, and just going through lots of scenarios, which it's doing, but it really is playing in a certain way. And I would say that this definition of creativity, so creativity is to say or do something stupid and at scale over and over again without fear, I think is a beautiful, beautiful definition of creativity. And I really, really appreciated that. And appreciate you taking time with us today, PJ. I love the book. I love the work you're doing, and I love the voice that you're bringing to it, thinking about it as as an agency founder, as a creator yourself, and as someone who's deep in it, just experimenting and playing with it to see what emerges. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you everyone that is watching, that will listen later. I think we're collectively creating a new world, and it's such an exciting time to be in the business. I always say that for all the pioneers in our business, there's somewhere out there a 20-year-old kid that is going to be the next version of all of us, and going to be much bigger, much more powerful, because the change is so much more exciting and more dramatic. I can't wait to see who that kid is going to be.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, PJ. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you soon, and we will distribute this recording and share it through all the usual channels. So have a great day, everyone, and thanks again.
All right.